Hey everyone, it's Jake of Jake's Metal Chat. Hope you're all well and welcome to episode 73 of my Metal Vaults, where I'll be exploring and showing you my favorite albums within heavy metal to thrash metal, death metal, black metal, doom metal, sludge metal, folk metal, you name it, all of that excellent stuff. As well as talking about the albums, I will also be talking about the band, so a brief history and any releases leading up to the album that I have picked. And for this episode and 74, 75, and 76. And I'd like to apologize for not bringing out a new one sooner. Just had a lot going on in my personal life, work and band stuff and, going out to gigs and whatnot. But here I am getting this one recorded and ready to go. And yeah, what was I going to say before I said that? Yes, looking at my list here. So this episode and 74, 5, and 6, all of the bands that I will be talking about are all Swedish death metal bands. And here's the first one. I saw them in 2017 in London, and then again in 2018 in Cardiff, and then again at Scandinavia Death Fest in Stockholm, Sweden in 2019. They were the opener, and what a way to start off a festival of just excellent death metal and some thrash and some grindcore. Yeah, these guys right here. And they've been around since the early 90s. And well, without further ado, this is Wombbath, and Wombbath are just excellent, heavy, punchy death metal. And if you knew about them back in the day and didn't listen to them back then, well, give them a chance now, and you may like them, you may not like them. All depends on how you like your death metal. But if you are a lover of death metal, this is definitely a band for you. And I hope to see them again. They got a new album out this year. I've already heard the single, and it is just that right level of heaviness. But it all started right here with this band. So before the new release, we are going to go all the way back to when this album came out. So this is Wombbath and their 1993 debut, Internal Caustic Torments. And man, what an album this is. There's the logo, the artwork. This is a re-release because it has the demo and EP from 1992, which I will talk about in a minute. This is, like I said, a re-release. It's released by Pulverized Records back in 2013, so 20 years after this album was released in 93. It was re-released in 2013. And that is the label they are currently on at the moment. Get the CD out because it's the CD. And of course, I will get the booklet out so you can see the artwork, so it's not, glaring off the case. And of course, I always have it like that because that will happen, as you know. A few lyrics. So some lyrics here, and some artwork with artwork continuing on at the back of the booklet. I like when some releases do this. They get the artwork, like main artwork from the album, and then they do this along with it. Uh, yeah, it sort of connects, but it's all the same. It's all the same there. Like you got stuff in and you got stuff there. So, but yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's continue on. Yeah, this album here is just oof, oof, so good, so damn good. But before we talk about the album in its entirety, let's talk about the band. Let's talk about Roombath. Whereabouts in Sweden do they come from? And I'm probably going to butcher the name of this place. I do apologize. Sala, I believe that's how it's pronounced. If I got it wrong, I do apologize. They formed under the name Wombbath in 1990 and they lasted from 1990 to 1995 and then reformed in 2014. But before they were Wombbath, from 1988 to 1990, they were called the Shadows. Um, I don't know if there's any stuff floating around. If there is, I'll try and have a listen. Then they were called Seizure in 1990 before changing it to Wombbath. And yeah, and right here, they played their first gig in on the 1st of February 1991. So first ever gig in the winter of 1991. And what a way to start. And a bit later on, they went Death and Roll for the 1994 EP, which I've not listened to, but I will be. Uh, yeah, so current members of this lineup, obviously the only original member is Harkin, who is the guitarist, the only original member left. So he was from the band in 1990, 95, and since their formation. Johnny Peterson, who's a mate of mine, I haven't seen him in years now. Yeah, moved back to Sweden, don't know when. But yeah, he's been in a ton of bands like Heads for the Dead, Syndrome, Ash Cloud. I can go on forever. I think he's still currently in Massacre. I could be wrong. I know he's doing stuff with Massacre at the moment. Uh, as that was guest stuff he was doing Massacre for. Um, oh yeah, yeah, past member, 2020, 2024. Yeah, so he was in Massacre for a while, and just before Dawn. I think he's not. No, he's not in Just Before Dawn anymore. And one of his other bands is Henry Kane. If you haven't heard them, check them out. Excellent, excellent vocals. The other one is Matt Davidson, who I've had on here as well. He not only does he play bass in Wombbath, but he plays guitar and does vocals in Repulsive Vision. Go check that band out as well. And the I don't know the other two members. So the other guitarist is Thomas and Antti on drums, who's been in the band since 2022. Thomas since 2018. Johnny since they reformed. And yeah, that's the current lineup to today. An animate of mine named John was the drummer in the band for where is he? Let me find him a minute. Well, yeah. There we go. 2018 to 2022. So he was in the band for a while. So let's crack on with the releases leading up to this album right here. And they're actually on the back of here. One of them is Brutal Mites, released in January of 1992. Very, very cool demo because while listening to this album, I was also listening to the demo and also the EP while I was tidying up my room, finding t-shirts I didn't want anymore. Yeah, really cool demo, independent release. I'm not sure how many copies of that are still around, but if anyone's got a copy, don't get rid of it. Next one is their EP, Several Shapes, which is also on this release. And man, you can tell where the production quality was going. It's just much because obviously the demo production is a lot different from the EP production. I'm not sure where they recorded it. I'm not sure where they recorded this one either. The EP, not the album. This was released on Thrash Records. On a 7-inch vinyl in June of 1992. And the thing with Wombbath is, being a Swedish death metal band, when you think Sweden, what comes to mind? The HM2 sound. Well, they don't have that on the demo or the EP. Later on, they did, but for demo EP, and they also did a split, a three-way split with Psychosis and Burial, and that was released on Loud Loud Out Records on a cassette. Don't know if anyone can find that anywhere. If you can, then well, it's going to probably cost stupid money. But those were the three bands that they were on that split with, and of course, Metallim's acting up again. It always seems to do this. But in 1993, here we go. In course, 1993, so that same year that split came out, they released this, which, well, the first time I heard about this band was 2013, and one of the songs well, it's track number three, which is the one I heard because I found some live footage of them. I can't remember where the footage was, but I'll have to go find it, and it'll be in the description below, so you can have a watch for yourself. Or I think the whole set's on there, so I'll put that down there. So yeah, Internal Caustic Torments, that was released on Thrash Records. So they were on that label for a while before getting on to Pulverized Records. Now, who was on this album? Obviously, I mentioned Harkin. I think I'm butchering his name. I do apologize. I met him in real life. He is a nice guy. Um, so there was Thomas on vocals, and Thomas Lindfors. I think I'm saying that right. He was in another band called In Thy Dreams, which was melodic death metal. Haven't listened to him, but I will. And his voice is just absolutely fierce on this release. There's a Toby Holmgren, who was the original guitarist from 1919 to 1995. I think he was only on this album. Let me double check this album and the EP in '94, and that was it. Uh, the bassist Richard Lagberg, I think I said that wrong. Um, obviously was also in Thy Dreams, and was on this album, the demos split EP and the two EPs. And last but not least, Roger Enstead. Um, I don't know how not sure how you say it, but I'll spell it out. Enstedt. Not sure how to pronounce that. I do apologize. I will butcher a lot of these names. He was in another band called Steel Shark from 97 to 2000, and obviously he was on the demo, split this album, and the last in the EP in 1994. As for guest musicians, there is a keyboardist named Bo Bobby Bobby Boppe. I can't say it. Anderson. Like I said, if you've seen my other seen my other episodes before where I found names I can't pronounce, you know how this is gonna go. But I do my best. And he did was the only thing he did guest vocals on, guest keyboard on, which gives it that haunting edge. Now for the cover art, that is SV Ball, who has done artwork for many bands. He's based in Canada, and of course, this makes sense having Anvil and Blasphemy in his repertoire. Did the Anthology of Anvil compilation artwork and the Gods of War artwork, the front cover for Blasphemy. Cataclysm, Impaled Nazarene, Gutted, Bleed for Us to Live, cracking album. Lost Society, Mortis Scold. Who else will people know? Rotting Christ, Thy Mighty Contract, which I have covered on my Metal Vault series, as well as this album, the Great Disillusion album, and the Tales of Madness album for Wombbath. But yeah, really cool artwork, I have to say there. And last but not least, Pete Roz did the engineering, the producing, mixing of the album, as well as engineering, mixing, and mastering for the Gorman promo in 1995. Crypt of Krelabos, probably just butchered that, but cracking band. A compilation for them in 2010. Anemia, their Bastard demo in 1994. And Abhoff, their 1992 EP, The Tide, which I have heard, and it is a really cool, underrated Swedish death metal. Just underground death metal, just great underground death metal. And when I've heard a lot of Swedish death metal stuff, it's always heavy and dark, and in some cases, it's got that atmospheric tone, quite haunting as well. And this definitely has it, this album. And I know this is the re-release, but I'm doing it up until the album, as you know. This was released in March of 1993. Oh, God, it's really thirsty. Excuse me. So yeah, 9 tracks, so 40 minutes and 21 seconds of uh just brutality throughout. And let's go with the songs. So we start off with, and it's literally the brutality just continue on, even though it's got all that atmosphere to it. We got Prevent Anemia, which has a haunting atmospheric opening and then just kicks right in. And then carrying on from that, you got Intestinal Bleeding. Again, just with the guitars, the bass, the drumming, the vocals. The vocals are just nasty, unrelenting, just growls and barks. And man, the bass is just got that dirty tone to it. You'll definitely get that in track number 4. Uh, guitars are really guitars are just like I said, it's quite haunting when you listen to it. And carrying on from track number 2, which this is the track that got me into them, As Silent as the Grave, which has a cool opening with the guitars and drummer hitting the crash, choking the crash. You know what I mean when you hear it, and and you get that bass a little bit later on just before it ends, like way before it ends. That that dirty bass tone I mentioned, and I think because when I watched the live footage, I was like, that is some dirty bass right there. Excuse me. And oh, you can definitely hear it on track number 4 here, which is Corporal Punishment, which has a slow kind of doom metal opening, and then it just hooks right in. And the vocals as well, when he does his growls, they just oof, man. Especially on the last track, he's when he's growling, when he does his screams, it's little growl. It's like growly screams. That's the best way I'm going to describe it. And right, but the bass on Corporal Punishment is just, man, love it. It's just this not distorted to the max, not like like Mortician where it's overly distorted, not like that, but still chunky at the same time. Then you get track number 5, Performed in Depth, and when I meant haunting, it is haunting. This track's quite a haunting one. Still brilliant. All the guitar, the bass, the drumming, the vocals, and you know, and when you get through this album, you do hear that atmospheric keyboard, and it just fits with the album really well. And then track number 6, Conceal Interior Torments, which is the longest one on here, clocking in at 6 minutes and 39 seconds. Uh, just still bringing that unrelenting brutality. where it started with the first track. Obviously you got that atmosphere opening, and then you get straight into just that nasty death metals that you need, that nasty death metal sound. Then we get track number 7, Beyond the Gloomy. And gloomy it is, but still heavy at the same time. You're still getting the chunky guitars, the chunky bass, the heavy back blasting drums, which can also be quite chunky. Still getting those evil, nasty vocals. And then track number 8 is Abandon, which is the shortest one on here at 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Um, More of a kind of a atmospheric, doomy sort of a track, and which definitely does lead on to the very last track on here, which is track number 9, Several Shapes, of course, which is the title of the 1992 EP. And with everything that has been happening in all the songs, with the guitars, the bass, the drums, the vocals, just ends this album perfectly. And obviously, I'm looking at my notes because I did put some notes down here. So, man, like when I said brutal throughout, I mean brutal throughout. I mean, like I said, later stuff will have that HM2. This didn't have HM2. Not every band used HM2. Um, of course, all the the bigger Swedish death metal bands like Dismember, Entombed, and Grave, they used HM2, but these guys and uh one in episode 76 I'll be talking about didn't use HM2. Even Epitaph, they didn't use HM2 because they were going for more, I think, more of the either the American sound or the European sound. I think they were encapsulating both on this record. Well, I think so anyway. I mean, whoever heard this back in the day or heard it before I got into him will probably have a different opinion on that, which is always good. I mean, what did people get from this when they heard it for the first time? But what I got from it the first time and then listened to it again is just everything I've been talking about with the atmosphere, the haunting atmosphere with the heavy, nasty guitar tone and the guitar bass tone, the drumming, the vocals are just evil. And a lot of these guys back in the day, they were like in their teens, early 20s when they were doing this album, and they did really well on this. And it's a it's one of those albums I think would have gotten overlooked back in the day. Because like I said, you had Entomb, Dismember, Grave, Unleashed, uh, Bolt Thrower, Benediction, Cannibal Corpse, Deicide, Obituary, Suffocation. Just look at my jacket again because as it's there, because I had to do some sewing. Morgoth, Massacre, Cancer, Repulsion. Going into grindcore territory as well as death metal territory. Napalm Death. Nocturnus. This goes on. So some so a lot of bands on there, the albums that they released would have overshadowed this quite a bit. Well, with along with Seeming Salvation by Epitaph, because that's one of the patches on my jacket, along with this one actually. That's also on my jacket. Shows you how much of an impact this album has made on me in terms of how I want to write more, or want to write more the death metal in this style, as well as here in the UK and Europe and bits and pieces from the American death metal scene as well. But definitely they encapsulated the American and the European death metal scene to a T on this album. To me, I think they did. And what's my overall conclusion on this? Well, I always say it's heavy because it is heavy. Atmospheric, it's brutal throughout. Every song continues the momentum. Even though they all have there's like the keyboard, atmospheric keyboard sound in some of the songs, but still they're keeping the momentum going. It's still an album that when if you like you add certain elements to it, it doesn't take away that brutality. It doesn't take away that momentum where from the album. So like from the first track had that atmospheric opening, and then all the other songs just continued on from that, bringing that level of brutality to it. And most importantly, I always say it here, and I got it circled down here because every album I show on this series is definitely a timeless masterpiece. And if you've not heard this, then I do highly recommend that you check it out. It's an album, if you're more into your underground death metal, and these guys are definitely one of the biggest ones in the scene, this will definitely be for you. They got a new album come out, like I said, go check that out when it's out. But if you want to go back all the way to beginning to their debut, definitely this one right here. And phew, yeah, everything they put here is heavy, atmospheric, bro. Throughout, every song continues that momentum. Timeless masterpiece of just heavy, punchy Swedish death metal right here. So, if you need a new band, look no further. Wombbath, an internal caustic torments. And that is it for episode 73. So it took so long. Of course, episode 74, 5, and 6, all are Swedish death metal bands. So this is like the not sure what I'm going to call this little bit of the segment, like the the quadruple Swedish death metal albums. I don't know what to call it, but the so pretty much like my metal vault, but uh, four underground Swedish death metal bands, something like that. But definitely go check out this band. So that is the first one ticked off the list of the episodes where I will be featuring Swedish death metal bands. So, thank you for tuning in. As always, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, share, comment down below, and subscribe for more of the same from this series. Got to do a collection update, got to do some other, like my favorite death metal albums, thinking about doing favorite black metal albums, doom metal albums, like my favorite essential doom metal albums for anyone getting into doom metal. And yeah, but my metal vault will still be continuing. Hoping to get to 100 videos before the end of the year. So yeah, look out for that. So until next time, I've been Jacob Jake's Metal Chat. Keep that banner of metal well and truly high, and I will see you all in another episode of my Metal Vault.